So you know when you sat there on Sunday evening, you just had a big curry or Sunday roast, something like that. You're watching some tips on Ableton or whatever it is on YouTube, and you got little pieces of nuggets here and there of all the good stuff. Didn't you just wish they were all just in one place? Well, here you go. Here is all the tips and tricks that I've found recently on Ableton in one place. This took an insane amount of time, so please subscribe and hit the bell notifications to get all my new videos. This video is brought to you by presetfood.com for all your preset needs. You've got 1,000 massive presets, FM8 preset pack, New School Bass Volume 2, Foghorns, Jump Up Bass, Donks, okay, and a bunch of samples and all that good stuff. So if you need presets, head over to presetfood.com. So here is my 101 Ableton Live tips. Tip number 1. Everyone knows that you can just freeze and flatten in Ableton, but did you know that you can record the audio from one channel into the audio of another? Quite simply, create a new audio channel, set the input to the channel that you wish to record, and then hit record. And boom, you're making amazing sounds. It's awesome. It's incredible. Let's move on to the next tip. Tip number 2. Life getting you down. Can't create those MIDI clips quick enough. Try Apple Shift M. Or Control Shift M on a PC. You can just go like this and you just go Apple Shift M, but it opens up the thing so you can put your notes in real quick. That's awesome, isn't it? That's tip number 2. Tip number 3. Did you know you can click on nearly any parameter in Ableton and move it by clicking the up and down keys on your keyboard? How insane is that? And then if you use Shift button, you can do it by points. Point 1, point 4, point 2, point 1. Insane. Tip number 4. Some people might say that the classic click is the only click. But now in Ableton, there's 3 different click sounds that you can choose from for your click track. And you can also have a counting. You can have classic, click, and wood. Personally, I'm all about click, which sounds like the old one from the MPC. Tip number 5. Did you ever wish that you could record a bunch of sounds and then cut them up and put them into a sampler in about 2 seconds? Well, this is how you do it. Okay, so we got that. Recording your sounds, double click on the sounds, make sure you are in warp mode. Do you want to be in beats mode? Right hand mouse click, slice to new MIDI track, click that, and lo and behold, the incredible, everything is sliced to a drum rack, and you can just... Okay, tip number 6. I summon thee, OTT. So obviously this one's OTT. OTT is one of the most crazy effects that you can find in Ableton. If you go over to your effects here, you are going to find multiband dynamics, and there's a preset in there called OTT. Grab that, chuck it there. Then find reverb, which is there. Put it before the OTT. Turn it down a little bit, and then play.
I summon thee, OTT.
And it's basically the sound of every EDM song ever. And most of them guys just put like 6 of them on there, just like this. It's just 6 OTTs.
I summon thee, OTT.
Tip number 7, create a synth. Any old synth will do. Hey, here's Massive. We'll go to New Sound. Now, go to MIDI effects. Choose an arpeggiator. Now, go to Scale. Choose a scale. C minor will do. Now, up the steps and hit any key. Change the distance. Maybe put some reverb on there. That is arpeggiator and scaler. Very nice. Tip number 8. Did you know that in EQ8 in Ableton, which is what I have here, you can do a right-hand mouse click on the top bar here. There's an option called oversampling. Apparently, it makes it sound better or something like that. I don't really know why. I do know why. It means it's processing at a higher sample rate and then sampling it back down so you get less artifacts. Genius! Well worth trying, I think. Or maybe it just uses more power. You know, it's there. And oversampling on EQ8. Incredible. Tip number 9. So you got yourself a drum loop and you're thinking, I want that to be louder than it could ever be. I want it louder. Everything must be loud. Loud! Okay, so you could just get a limiter like this Fab Filter Pro L. Squishy. It sounds very squishy. That's not always what you want. So maybe you might want to try clipping. There's multiple different types of clipping plugins out there for your perusal. I personally love K-Clip. And the great thing about clipping plugins is they are not so squishy. So if you're looking for maximum loudness without the artifacts of compression and limiting, try clipping instead of limiting. It's pretty awesome. So on to the next tip.
Tip number 10.
Do you find it difficult to stay consistently creative? Do you find that your energy levels fluctuate up and down? Then stop drinking coffee. It's really, really bad for you. It will mess up your whole rhythms and your sleep patterns. And it's highly recommended that you stop drinking coffee because it just kind of messes you up, man. So, yeah. Stop drinking coffee! Tip number 11. Are you bored of the same old display colors? Quite simply, go to your preferences, look and feel, sling up the color intensity, and twiddle with the color hue. Purple. That's changing your colors in Ableton display setting. Woo! Tip number 12. Macros are absolutely the most awesome thing ever. Let me show you. I'm going to record something in here. Derp. Okay, sling it into a simpler. Change the start point. Okay, sounding great. Let's add some reverb. Let's add an OTT. And now, if I get all of this stuff here, hit Apple G, it puts it into a box. And then if you click on this button here, it reveals the macros. They're very awesome. I got my filter frequency here. If I right hand mouse click, I can map it to macro 1. And then I could take my reverb and I could map the decay time to macro 1 also. Which doesn't do anything really that awesome. So I can undo that unmap from decay time. But you get the general idea. Any control within here you can control with multiple macros, and then if you hit map you can change the amounts up here that it will control. So now it only goes to 213 hertz. Very awesome stuff. Number 13. Did you know you can add your own MIDI controller, any keyboard that outputs MIDI, to be a macro controller? So I got my virus here. I can turn it here and look, it does it there. Isn't that amazing? I'll show you how you can do it. Go to your Finder. On a Mac, I'm not going to tell you how to do it on a PC. You can look up, I'll put a link in the description on how to do this as well. So you want to go to Users, your user, Library, Preferences, Ableton. Choose the live that you're using, and in there, user remote scripts, and then there's user configuration here. And all this stuff here, you can just go through and choose the MIDI controllers that you want. You could just basically read up about it. It's possible. There you go. I'll link in the description on how you do it. And then you just kind of copy that configuration file over to somewhere else. Then you have to do some old jiggery pokery and you can make it work. And it's awesome. That is adding your own MIDI controller to Ableton. All right. That is about as descriptive as it's going to get. On to the next tip. Tip number 14. When you open Ableton, it opens with this default project. If I open a new project, new live set, don't save, then it opens like this. If you want that to change and have your own configuration, you can go to Applications, right hand mouse click, Show Package Contents on your Ableton, Contents, App Resources, Versions, and in there is Default Live Set. Simply replace that with your template that you wish to open every time. It will open with that. So that's cool. On to the next one. Number 15. If you're anything like me, you use the same plugins every single day, just the same stuff all the time. You end up going through the list of plugins and trying to find, like, as dyslexic as I am, trying to find that EQ. What manufacturer was it? Yeah, that's not the one. The best thing I found you could do is to personalize your Ableton. Go into the user library, make a folder in there, which I already did, with all your favorite plugins right there that you use all the time. Then you can just drag that over to the sidebar, and there it is. All your favorite plugins in a folder, and you never have to go searching around ever again. Let's go! Tip number 60. Head over to tcdnb.com. There's loads of good stuff there. You can see live streams of me making 30 tunes in 30 days and making tunes live. You can see presets and samples that I'm selling there. These are also on my other website, presetfood.com. But all here, I mean, it looks pretty shanky, but it's, it does the job. You can get lots of sounds. There's examples for sounds. You can see the events that I'm not playing because of the old, thingy jig, and there's a mastering service where I will master your tunes for you. So head over to tcdnb.com. Because you want to. Number 17. I'm a big proponent of looking at spectrum analyzers when making music. I can't recommend this one highly enough. It's M Analyzer by Melda Production. Head over to meldaproduction.com. It's probably the best analyzer that I've found. Well worth checking out. A lot of times I like to look at other people's tunes through the analyzer. When I'm making tunes, I'll run an analyzer. Because of atmospheric pressure changes and that kind of stuff, you can't trust your ears all the time. So I can definitely recommend grabbing a decent spectrum analyzer. And this one from Melda is absolutely fantastic. So go and grab that. Next tip, number 18. There's these buttons you can get called Stream Decks that are absolutely amazing. They are buttons with little screens behind them that are fully programmable. Cannot recommend them highly enough. You can load plugins with them, which has got to be just about the best thing ever. There's a full explanation on how I use these on tcdnb.com. So check them out. They are amazing. 19. 19. Simpler really is amazing. I love Simpler. But what if Simpler could be even better and still as simpler? Wouldn't it be really cool to have reverb on a Simpler? Maybe even a compressor on your Simpler. We've got these three things here. Select them all. Apple G to group them up. And if we go here, we can rename it Mega Simpler. Let's have the compressor dry wet on one, and we can even rename the macros. Let's have the reverb dry wet on 2. Awesome. I've got my awesome Mega Simpler here, and let's drag that into my library. And now every time I want to use Simpler, I can use Mega Simpler, Mega Simpler, and that's about it. Say tip number 20. So you're on a laptop, you're on your plane, and you've got your MIDI keyboard. What are you going to do? Well, you probably know this already, but you can just click this up in the top right hand corner here. You can see it's a little keyboard symbol, and that means you can then use your keyboard simpler as a MIDI keyboard. Awesome. Tip 21. You got yourself a riff, but you're thinking to yourself, maybe if that could just be one key higher. So I just selected them all, and you just hit the up key. That's on your computer keyboard. No, it needs to go one up. And you're thinking, it's not high enough. If you hold shift and the up key, it goes up by an octave, which is 12 notes. And that is shifting notes around in Ableton. Oh, you can make them go left and right as well, if you want to do that too with the left and right keys. Tip 22. There's a plugin you need to buy. It's called Serum. It's amazing. There's this guy called Steve Duda who used to work with Deadmau5, I think, helping with his mixdowns and stuff. And then he made this plugin. He's made other stuff as well, which is also awesome. It's Xfer Records. xferrecords.com to go and buy it. I think there's other outlets that are available. Don't get a crack, make sure you get the full version of it. It's probably the best synth that is out there. It's very versatile. You can do wavetables and 2 oscillators, a filter, an amazing effect section with hyperdimension, distortion, flanger, phaser, chorus, delay, compressor, reverb, EQ, filter. It's the best thing in the world ever, and if you don't know about it, you should probably know. And you can get lots of presets I made for it on tcdnb.com for all your production needs. All right, on to the next tip. Number 23. You've got Simpler, you think a sampler in Ableton, and you think to yourself, I don't need another sampler. Well, actually, I think maybe you do, and it's called Contact. It's amazing. If you're super uber at using it, you can add your own artwork to it and make amazing things. all of these that I made, which are just the best thing ever. So into Contact right now. I will be dropping more Contact instruments as soon as they are complete. This one's called Dark City that I made here. Ooh, scary. So yeah, Contact, very well worth getting. It's part of Native Instruments and can't recommend it enough. Go grab that. Next. 24. You got yourself an awesome sound. Damn. You want to just be able to preview it by clicking these keys here, but it doesn't seem to work. So what you need to do is there's a little headphone thing there, little headphone symbol. Click that and then you can hear what you're doing by clicking on this keyboard. Amazing. Number 25. There's a thing that comes with Ableton called Max for Live. It's really cool. If you install it, I think you have the option to install it or not. It will appear on the left-hand side here in your browser. It comes with audio effects, instruments, and MIDI effects. So it's like extra plugins, but they're kind of scripting based, but blocky based. I'll show you how it looks in a second. So you can basically make your own plugins in Ableton, which can be really useful if you're trying to do something specific. It's really kind of difficult, and most of them sound terrible. So it's about going through and picking out the ones that you love the most. I've actually designed a couple of plugins in Max for Live. This one's called Super Good High Pass down here in the corner. I'll let you hear it.
Wolfpack, assemble!
So it's a super sick high pass. There's also some really weird stuff you can do with Max for Live. There's also like Notepad, hello, tone generators and all that kind of stuff. Definitely well worth checking out. This is what it looks like when you open one of your plugins. And there it is. And then I think we take it out of presentation mode, and it's sort of like blocks that you stick together and a bit of code. And it's all pretty convoluted and complicated. And I have no idea how I did this, but it is really cool. So that is Max for Live for Ableton. Well worth checking out. Number 26. Speaking of Max for Live, there is one in particular that I like the most, which is Convolution Reverb down here. It is absolutely incredible. There are loads of different impulses, including like BM7, loads of stuff, really sick. I think it's one of my favourite reverbs because you can just chuck it in there real quick, real nice. That is Convolution Reverb that comes with Max for Live 27. So I made a macro that can turn any drum and bass tune halftime at the click of a button. It is insane. So here's a tune. There it is, and then we'll go halftime. Got to be crazy. And you can also do a little different change of the step. And that is available to buy right now. Link in the description. That is TC Halftime Macro. Go grab it. Tip number 28. So there's a suite of plugins that I think everyone should have in their arsenal for making tunes, and that is the Fab Filter plugins. They do like an EQ, a compressor, a limiter, and some other stuff as well. I think a multi-band compressor. They're absolutely incredible plugins. This is the EQ. It's really intuitive to use. You can just chuck in stuff and the mouse wheel changes the cue and that kind of stuff. But also there is a mode in here called Natural Phase Mode, which is a very nice sounding mode and well worth checking. So that is Fab Filter plugins. Definitely check them out. They are absolutely incredible. Number 29. If there's one thing that I've learned in my many years in the music business, is this. Just don't be a dick. Just don't be a dickhead. Your reputation is everything, and if you're a dickhead, everyone's going to know about it really quickly, and your music thing will be done, and you'll be working in Tesco's. So just don't be a dick. Just chill the fuck out. Don't be a dick, for fuck's sake. All right. Tip number 30. There's an artist that I follow called Tom Sachs, who is a visual artist in New York. He's got this film that he made called 10 Bullets. And in that film, It basically describes all the processes in his art studio that he wants his art students who work for him to follow. And one of them is always keep a list. And I've always stuck to this one. I make checklists for everything. So like when I'm going on tour, I've got a long checklist of all the things I need to not forget. Always keep a list. No matter what you're doing, it's going to save your bacon at some point and you're not going to forget anything. And we all know what us producers are like. Super forgetful. So yeah, keep a list. Number 31. So you already know that you can save instruments with plugins into a group and then save that into your library. But did you know you can also save channel strips as well? And this is how you do it. So you got your channel strip. It's an Amen. Woo! You want these two plugins because you want to use them again on another project. Just hit Apple G, and if you click on this control button here, it opens it up, and you can actually still add your macros. And then Apple R allows you to rename it, and I'm going to call this Amen EQ. You find where you want to save it in your library. So use a library, and then I've got a little thing here for my tips, and chuck it in there. And then whenever you need to use that again, you can just load it up and it is all there. So that is saving channel strips in Ableton. And let's move on to the next tip. 32. Did you know you can use Redux as a bit crusher? Quite simply, find Redux, put it on something and listen to it. That is Redux as a bit crusher. Awesome. On to the next one. Number 33. So you got yourself some automation on a plugin. I've got it on this bit crusher with the Amen. Awesome for a build. Hey, 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 hey. But what you want is for that curve to bend quite simply and easily. Hold down the out button and it brings up this curve and then you can bend the lines. Yeah, you can bend the automation lines in Ableton. How awesome is that? Number 34. There's this awesome plugin called The Glue by Cytomic, and it's now actually a part of Ableton. As you can see, the Glue compressor is powered by Cytomic up here in the right hand corner of the plugin. So I'm presuming it's the same things going on in there, which is awesome. I think that maybe there's a few more options in the Glue that doesn't come with the Ableton version, but I honestly, there is oversampling in there, which is awesome. I would say definitely worth checking out the original Cytomic Glue, but this is it's like a bus compressor. You would put it on your buses or on your master. It just helps to glue everything together. So that is Glue compressor in Ableton. On to the next tip. Number 35. So there's a school of thought that says that working in higher sample rates will sound better. I think it is best for you to work in as high a sample rate as you can possibly get away with. Using 96K or 192 is going to be very resource hungry, but there is this option which will give you extended range in the top end. I would say definitely try out using 48K instead of 44.1 when building your tunes. On to the next tip. Number 36. So you got yourself a tune here you've been working on for a while. And what if you've taken samples from different places in your hard drive and you want to make sure that all of that stuff is saved in one place so that when you come back to it, or if you move any of the files that are linked to that Ableton project, they don't go missing and mess up being able to open it in the future. What you can do is go to File, collect all and save. Then it will take all of the files that are being linked into Ableton and put them into the current project folder that you are saving it as. That is a very useful tip for making sure that you don't lose projects for future use. So that is collect all and save in Ableton. Let's go! Number 37. You all know that it's possible to change the colors in Ableton, but did you know that you can change the themes in Ableton also? If you go to Preferences, Look and Feel, and then there is Light, Mid-Dark, and Dark. You can also add your own themes. So I have this dark mode one, I have white and black. I used to have a lot more themes, but I seem to have less themes nowadays, and I only really work in the light theme because I feel like it's the one that I want to use the most. But you can customize the themes. There are websites that you can go to get themes if you type it into Google. So that is themes in Ableton. Check it out. Hey, number 38. When you set up your preferences for Ableton, it's important to consider when you are loading up files into Ableton how they are going to be treated. If you go into the preferences here, there is a tab here on the left hand side called Record, Warp and Launch. There is default warp mode. So every time you load a WAV file into Ableton, it will either use beats mode, tones mode, texture mode, repitch or complex. And I am a big fan of beats mode, which basically finds all the transients and then chops the WAV at the transients, and then it's quite easy to do the right hand mouse click to chop it to a sampler. You don't have to go and change that every time when you load in your audio files. So I usually use beats mode. Repitch is actually really useful for let's say you had a tune and you wanted to have it so that it pitched like a record deck. When you change the pitch of the song, then you could use that also. These different warp modes are very interesting to check out, and I would advise having a look at all the different warp modes available. So you don't actually do it here though. You would do it within an audio file itself, and you would have the option here: beats mode, tones mode, texture mode, repitch, complex and complex pro. So that is default warp mode in Ableton. Let's move on. Number 39. Another really interesting thing to know about Ableton is every time you load in a clip, it will create fades on the intro of the clip and the outro of the clip. I have this set in my preferences to off because I feel like you're going to miss transients on beats. Let's say you loaded up a drum break, it would automatically fade in the kick drum of that drum break. I would prefer that my Ableton doesn't really add those fades. So I do create clip fades on clip edges off. Very useful. Let's go! Number 40. This has got to be one of the most useful tools in my arsenal in Ableton. It is the duplicate command, Apple D. And you can just go Apple D, you know, you can just really like, you can just duplicate anything and it'll duplicate the time. So you can duplicate that and you'll have it so that it duplicates whatever's in your selection. And then you can go in here and you can add some notes. So like, we can go in here and duplicate, duplicating notes is awesome. You can also use duplicate to duplicate, so Apple D to duplicate a channel, or you could use duplicate to duplicate a plugin. So you could go here and you could say, oh, I want to have a chorus on that channel, and then I want 2 of them, I want 3 of them, 4. That is duplicate in Ableton. It is sick. Number 41. So you got your tune here and you're really into your tune and it's amazing, and you're just like, I've just changed the world of drum and bass forever, or whatever musical genre you're working on. But then you're like, oh no, I need another 8 bars in this bit here. So just select up 8 bars, just hit Apple I, and it will move the whole tune over. You just inserted some space in there, and we could do it again. Here, I need a little bit of space in there, need a little space in there. So yeah, you can add spaces in your tunes to put other bits in, and that is insert time. Deep. Tip number 42. Here's a tip for you. Get some sleep. It's quite simple. You've been working on that tune for like 12 hours straight, but you're still buzzing on it. You just feel like you want to just keep going till like 6 in the morning the next day, and you know, you got to do it because you're going to change the world with your music. But just get some sleep. Get some sleep, and when you come back in the morning, you have tons of really new ideas, loads of energy. You need to get your 8 hours sleep. Get some sleep. Just get some sleep, man. I personally get lots of sleep. Honestly, it's not like it's 3 in the morning right now or anything. Get some sleep. 43. Are you sick of using the zoom keys? Well, actually, you can turn off keyboard mode, select the region you want to zoom in on, and hit Z. And then that's awesome. You just zoomed in on it. How sick is that? Hey! Tip number 44. And then when you finish working on the area that you wanted to work on, you can just hit X and it will bring you straight back out. So that's 2 tips for the price of 1 or 2. Just trying to fill up time, man. Just, you know, leave me alone. This is hard. Zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, zoom out. ZX, ZX. It's too much. Number 45. So you got yourself that game-changing beat. It's just killing the world. You're just like on top of the world. It's amazing. You're going to be the next superstar. And you think to yourself, you know what? I don't want to be like everyone else. I want to be new and improved. So you can change the tempo of a song as it goes and piss off every single DJ you ever knew. Just turn on the automation mode up here. And then all you have to do is choose song tempo. And at the moment, it is set here at 137. And then I can go here and I can go, I want it to be 111. And it will change along that curve. So, wow, changing the tempo of a song as it plays. That is amazing. 46! It's a game changer. Your tune's done. And you're thinking, how can I export an MP3 and a WAV file at the same time? Quite simply go to Export Audio and Video. And then you can choose here PCM, which is a WAV file, or AIF, or FLAC. But I use WAVs. I would say 24-bit is good. The dithering, it's up to you. And then you can switch on MP3 and it will do a 320 MP3 at the same time, which is awesome. Click Export, choose where you want to save it and the file name, and you have got yourself your next banger. Ready for mastering or just uploading to SoundCloud? Why is that there? What is going on? On to the next tip, 47. Did you know you can add video into Ableton? Drag it into the arrange page and then press play and it will play your video in a little screen, which is awesome. So when you're doing film scoring or whatever you want to do to add audio to your video, you can sync it all up and it is awesome. That is adding video to Ableton. Very nice. Number 48. That's it. Tune's done. And you're ready to get someone to do a remix for you. How do you do that? Well, you need to send them the parts to the tune so that they can take the tune apart and do a better version. And then you can never put it out because you're jealous of the fact that it's better than what you did in the first place. So if you want to export the parts, select the channels I wish to export. Then I would go up here to export audio and video. And at the top here, I would choose selected tracks only. And I would choose WAVs 24-bit. Make sure that it's rendering out the correct area up here. No dithering. And then just click export. Choose where you want to save all the files. It will be a large bundle of files. It will be all of the tracks. Send those off to the person. That is how I export my stems in Ableton. Let's move on to the next tip. Tip number 49. Did you know you can open a second window in Ableton with Apple, Shift and W? There is your second window and you could put it on another screen and it would be awesome. And you can see it almost as if it was a channel strip thing. And that's awesome. Make all the things really small, you know, and then you've got a nice little channel strip here. Almost like a mixer, but without any plugins. But when you do select it, the plugins can turn up down the bottom here, which is awesome. That is creating a second window for Ableton. Awesome. On to the next tip. Somebody say 50. Key maps in Ableton. Key maps are quite cool. I think it is Apple K. And then you can choose the button that you want to be affected by a key. I like to use the R key to activate the record up here because that's the kind of thing I need when I'm working quickly. And then when I hit record, it does record. That is awesome. That is key maps. You can map lots of different things to different keys on your keyboard. And then you could save that as your default template, which I never do. And I always have to remap it anyway. But yeah, that is key maps in Ableton. Definitely worth checking out. On to the next tube. Put your hands up for 51. So you're recording parts in for your tune and you just hit play and you got your tune running and you're like, and then you were like, oh no, I didn't hit record and that was the take of the century. What you can do is hit Apple Shift C and what you played, even though you weren't recording, will end up in the Midi there, which is it's just amazing. Isn't that awesome? So if you forget to hit record, you can always just hit Apple Shift C and it will capture the Midi. That is Midi capture in Ableton Live. On to the next one, 52. This is one of my most used commands in Ableton that I must tell you about. I got this amazing thing here and I just duplicate it with the Apple D, but then I want to join those two together. Apple J for join is amazing. Join things together. It's just the best thing ever. When you want to join stuff, you can even join up audio files and it will save it as a new audio file. So it's actually consolidate, but they call it Apple J for join. So that is consolidating in Ableton Live. Next, 53. So there's a thing, it's called Record Quantize. It's here somewhere. Edit, Record Quantization. And you can then choose a Record Quantization so that whatever you record in will be automatically quantized. That is Record Quantization. Should we give it a go? So it should be that every note is on the 16th. And it is. That is amazing. Record quantization. 54. So you didn't have record quantization activated, but now you want to quantize something, but you want to do it with specific ranges. So Apple Shift U will give you a quantize dialog box here, and you can do it to 16ths, 8ths, or all these different quantize, and you can do the amount, whether it does the start or the end of the note. So if you do that, and it brings it all into quantize. So that is Apple Shift U that I use all the time as well. If you already know that you are already in some kind of quantization mode that you want, you can just hit Apple U and it will do it. So it doesn't bring up the dialog box. How awesome is that? That is quantization in Ableton. Blam! Tip number 55. So you just drop that grand on that external synthesizer that is going to change your life and change your sounds. You're wondering to yourself, well, how can I integrate that into Ableton? Well, it's actually quite simple. Go to the left-hand side browser, Instruments, External Instrument, add one. And then you choose the MIDI port that you wish to connect with, the channel that you want to use, and then audio input that you want to use. You can send the MIDI out and the audio will come back in, and then you can use that as if it was a normal instrument. So how awesome is that? External Instruments integrated into Ableton. Pow! Number 56. You just bought that compressor. £1 million compressor with like everything you could ever want. It's that Joe Meek. No, it's that SSL bus compressor that you always wanted. And then you think to yourself, how can I integrate that into my Ableton system? Well, it's actually quite simple. You can just get this external audio effect, put it on a channel, and then choose the output to, so that will send it out to the bit of equipment that you want to send your signal through, and then the input from, which will take the input from that bit of equipment into your sound card, and then it will just spoof it through that and then back in, and then you can record. That is pretty good. There's latency issues and you're going to have to faff around a lot, probably not even worth doing, but it is possible, and that is using external effects in Ableton. Cha-ching! Number 57. Let's say you only use Simpler to make your tunes, and it is possible that that might be the case. If you want to not have to load Simpler every single time when you load a MIDI track, you can just right-hand mouse click on any MIDI track and you can save as default MIDI track, which will, every time you load a MIDI track, will load it with that channel strip attached, which I would never do, but it is possible, and there it is. So how awesome is that? That is saving default MIDI track. Very good. Number 58. Let's say you always use an EQ8 and a compressor on every channel that you use when you are making tunes. Then you can also do the same thing as with MIDI tracks and save audio tracks as default track. So it will always load that track with your channel strip that you wish to use every time. So yeah, that is saving default audio tracks. And then every time you open an audio track, it will load up this. But I find that I don't want to do that because I just like to start from a blank slate. I find that to be the most inspiring way. So yeah, that is saving audio default tracks. On to the next tip. Number 59. So everything's too loud in your tune. When you've got lots of stuff going on, it is clipping the master channel, which is an unacceptable situation. So just quite simply, select the channels you wish to turn down and then just turn them all down, and then you can turn them all down. You can also use the buttons to turn them down if you wish to do it by decibel or 0.decibel increments with the shift, which is just the greatest thing. No messing around. Just select the channels, turn them all down. You have fixed your issue. Tip number 60. There's this effect called Spectral Delay that I absolutely love. It is part of Max for Live and definitely worth finding. I don't know how to tell you how to find it, but if you can find it, it's amazing. It's called Spectral Delay. And it just kind of instantly turns everything into glass. So that is incredible. Spectral Delay in Ableton, Max for Live. Let's do this. Number 61. So you're running out of resources in your project. Your processor is going like, I can't take it anymore. Well, what you can do is you can freeze the track. And what that does is it records it to audio, but still lets you kind of see the stuff. But then you think, that's done, or I want to bounce it in place. Well, then you can flatten it and it will just bounce it to audio. So that is freeze and flatten in Ableton. definitely one of my favorite things to do. When you are happy with a part, you can just convert it to audio. A lot of people like to freeze and flatten every track of an arrangement before they do their final mixdown, because it's a lot tighter in Ableton, because you're not using any plugins, and Ableton's delay compensation is terrible. So that is freeze and flatten in Ableton. On to the next tip. Tip number 62. Did you know you can group tracks in Ableton? Select more than one track, hit Apple G, it then puts it in a box or a group. Then you can actually rename the group to My Group. And then if you want to do a dream within a dream, you can group that within the group. That's in Ableton 10 only, I'm afraid. If you're using earlier versions of Ableton, it's not possible. And then you can do a dream within a dream within a dream, and it's grouping within a group within another group. And I wouldn't know why you would want to do any of this stuff, but it's possible, and that's why I'm showing it to you. And this is Ableton tips. So on to the next tip. 63. So you got yourself a nice tune and you're like, wait, but you're thinking to yourself, if only I could record that automation. So you just go here and you do the plus sign and the automation sign up there, and then when you hit record, it will only record. And now it's doing it on its own. Gotta love Ableton, that is insane. On to the next tip, 64. You're thinking to yourself, it's not quite visually appealing enough. Try follow mode and then zoom in. Oh, that's Apple Shift F follow mode in Ableton, so you can get it so it goes and like scrolls along while you're playing, and who would know why you'd want to do it, but that is follow mode. On to the next one, number 65. This is a key you're going to use all the time, and you should probably just learn the keyboard shortcut for it. It is draw mode, which is the
See
beat.
tonight.
Bullshit.
Hey.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
Bullshit. Okay, I totally messed up there, didn't I? So this is a key you're going to use all the time, and it is the B key for draw mode, and it turns your cursor into a little pen. Little pen. And you can then draw in notes and stuff, and that's amazing, isn't it? Look, draw mode. Draw mode. And then you can, I think, draw in automation with draw mode as well. Look, draw mode. But it's kind of annoying in this page, but you are going to use it a lot. It's draw mode. It's the B button or this little icon up here. That's draw mode in Ableton. Number 66. So you're thinking to yourself, where did my automation go? Just click the A key and your automation will magically appear. Or you can click this button up here as well, which is awesome. That is showing and hiding automation in Ableton. On to the next one, tip number 67. So you've had this idea for the tune that is going to change your life. You're about to put it into action in a single session of just absolute madness of making that tune. Before you get started, could you please remember to go and click Save Live Set As and save it as you go? Because if you don't save it, someone's going to turn that washing machine on and it's going to trip the power and you're going to lose your tune and you're just going to go like, oh, God. So remember to save as you go and save from the beginning, because a lot of times you'll start something, you get so creatively into it, you will lose it and you'll feel like a sad panda. So that is saving all the time. Just save. 68. There's a thing in Ableton called the groove pool, which is here. And I just got no idea what it's for. So that's the groove pool in Ableton. Sweet. 69. So you just spent like 15 quid on someone's sample pack when you could have come to tcdnb.com and just bought the samples for £4.20, which is so much more realistic of a price for sounds. But anyway, and you got your beat running and you realize it's not tight enough. A lot of times it is that sample packs are crappy and you need to adjust the sample start points on every sample that you get. Because look at this. What is this? There's at least 20 samples there that are not, it's before the actual sound kicks in. So just adjust your start points. Make sure everything is really tight before you get going, and you'll have a much more pleasant sounding tune. So that is adjusting your start points in Ableton Live. Make sure you keep things tight. Number 70. There's a thing called delay compensation in Ableton. If there is a part of your track that is slightly ahead or behind in time, you can go and click the D down here, bottom right hand corner. It's where you turn off and on all the different stuff in the sidebar here. The delay compensation is there, and you can do it in microseconds or samples. That's how you would adjust how in sync or out of sync that particular track is with all the other tracks. Number 71. So there's a thing in Ableton where some plugins don't seem to have delay compensation. With a plugin, it's going to be processing the sound and using some time in order to do that. In Ableton, sometimes some plugins do not do the compensation correctly, but if you load your plugin and then just hover over the top of the plugin, it will tell you in the bottom bar there how many samples it is out by, and then you can just change it in your delay compensation here, and hopefully you can get it all straightened out. All right, that is trying to fix Ableton's buggy sample delay compensation. It's probably best just to bounce all the parts and then master out of another door, but Ableton is still awesome. It is still awesome. On to the next tip.
72.
So you got yourself your awesome beat here and it sounded great. But you're thinking, what would it sound like in halftime? I know I showed you my halftime plugin earlier, but with one click, you can make it go half. That's half. That is making your MIDI halftime in Ableton. On to the next tip.
Tip number 73.
So you want your DAW to automatically arm the recording at a specific point when playing. What you could do is set up punch in, punch out, punch in, punch out, then hit record. It will start recording on the bit that you selected within the looping stuff. Turn off the loop. It will punch in and punch out automatically. And that is punch in, punch out in Ableton.
74.
So you've got your click enabled, but what if you just want it to enable when you're recording? In the options for click, you can click enable only while recording, and then it'll only click when it's recording. Woohoo!
Tip number 75.
Did you know you can solo specific tracks at the same time in Ableton? So you want to solo this one and you want to solo this audio number 4. All you have to do is hold down Apple whilst clicking solo, and you can solo different tracks, and they don't have to be consecutive or anything like that. But it just means you can use your solos in a more practical manner. That is using multiple solos in Ableton.
Number 76.
There's an amazing plugin you can get called Bitspeak, which will turn any sound into the sound of a speak and spell, just like this. Now spell color. How cool is that? Whoa! That is Bitspeak. What an amazing plugin.
Number 77.
Did you know you can just reverse MIDI parts in Ableton? Select the MIDI part you wish to reverse and then click Rev here, and it reverses the MIDI part, and it can be super interesting for creating new melodies. So that is reversing MIDI parts. On to the next one.
Number 78. Very awesome.
I don't know about you, but I quite like to use clip mode as almost kind of like a mixer mode. Did you know you can extend the length of the faders in clip mode so that it looks more like a mixer, which is just awesome. That is extending the faders in Ableton. Let's go.
79.
So you reversed your MIDI and you're really happy with the reverse MIDI, and that's amazing. But now you want all of these notes to kind of touch each other like this. So instead of having to go through and do that and make them all touch each other, you can just select them and click legato, and they will all automatically extend to the length of the next note, which is sick. That is legato in Ableton. Let's go. Next tip. Let's go. Hey, hey, hey.
Tip number 80.
So you got yourself an awesome loop, but you want it to be a bit more kind of like pumpy. So grab yourself a compressor, chuck it on the channel. There it is. Activate the sidechain and set the input to the sidechain to the thing you wish to trigger the sidechain, and then drop down the threshold. And there you have it. Sidechain in Ableton. Very easy to do. Very awesome. So that is sidechain in Ableton. On to the next tip.
Number 81.
So I made 1,000 presets for Massive that you can go and buy right now on tcdnb.com. Have a look here. There is all the presets. How awesome is that? So head over to tcdnb.com and grab those presets because they are awesome. Number 82. So back in the day, there was these magical people. They were called mastering engineers. When you finished your tune, you would send it to a mastering engineer and they would convert it to different formats for you. So they would cut it to lacquers for pressing to vinyl. They would make it louder and they would do little tiny EQ adjustments to bring it into line with what everything else was sounding like in that time. And I still believe that mastering engineers have a role in balancing music for different services. And essentially what they would do would be like an EQ, compression, a limit or clipping of some kind. So mastering chains are a thing. If you don't want to pay a mastering engineer to do it for you, you can do it yourself. I would be using probably 3 plugins on my final chain. So when you got your tune running on your channels, there's this final master channel, which is where you would put everything that mixed down, and you would put plugins on there where the whole mix goes through these final plugins. And I would get a really good EQ like this GML or AMEC they call it on here. I would get a really good compressor like this SPL Iron, and clipping I would use something like K-Clip, and that would be a good mastering chain from my point of view. And you really wouldn't have to do a lot as long as you've made your tune good. But there might be a time when you want to add a slight high pass, a very slight high pass, to remove the DC from the audio signal. That's something that mastering engineers do quite a lot. You would want to remove the stereo when cutting to vinyl below 300 hertz, because you can't cut stereo that's below 300 hertz to vinyl. And maybe a little top end boost. And a lot of times a mastering engineer will add 1 or 2 dB at around 600 hertz, because it's a full octave below 1K, which is the center of the human hearing. Then smash it with a clipping plugin to get the loudness. So that is mastering chains in Ableton. On to the next tip.
Number 83.
There's a plugin that comes with Ableton called Utility. It's super cool. You got gain adjustment, balance adjustment, width adjustment. You can make things mono. And then down here, Utility just got a whole lot more awesome. There is bass mono, which is very similar to what I showed you on this EQ, where you can take mono maker on this EQ here, but you've now got it built into Ableton in their own utility down here, bass mono, and you can sweep that up to 500 hertz. So for cutting to vinyl would be around 300. What it does is it brings the bass part mono sweepable between 50 hertz and 500 hertz, and will make it a lot tighter. And that is awesome. On to the next one.
Number 84.
There's a suite of plugins called Plugin Alliance, which is £24 a month, and you get a literal ton of plugins that come with this bundle. There is all kinds of stuff, equalizers, ton of equalizers, virtual instruments, reverbs, effects, console emulation, dynamics as in compressors, tone and character, 3D space, utilities, mix tricks, all sorts of stuff, gig performance stuff, guitar and bass amp stuff, mega bundle perpetual, £8,000. Wow. Okay, so you get like £8,000 worth of plugins for £24 a month, and I subscribe to this. I think it's awesome. Definitely worth checking out. So that is Plugin Alliance plugins. Go check them out for cheesy.
85.
There's a lot of producers out there that just seem to put a compressor on everything, and I just think just don't put a compressor on everything, because it sucks. If there's another way of doing things, then do it that way, because everyone seems to put compression on everything, and compression sucks. So don't put a compressor on everything. Don't do it. Don't put a compressor on everything. It's terrible.
86.
A lot of people use EQ a lot. EQ is okay, but EQ has a tendency to make things very mushy, because if we look at this EQ here, whenever you've got a band switched on or you're using a band, the audio that's going through that band has to go through a process and then come back into the signal. And that introduces phase changes at the edges of those bands, and that can really mess with the sound of things. And it's not very noticeable on one sound, but once you get a ton of sounds together, you all using EQ, you have a tendency to have more of a smushy kind of mix. There are people that can hear phase distortions, but it's only Nick from Noisio really who can hear it, because he's got the best ears in the business. So that is EQs make things mushy. On to the next tip.
Tip number 87.
So here's a tip for you. As I said before in the last tip, EQs can make things a bit mushy. An alternative to using EQ is changing the dynamics of a sound. So there we have a snare. It's a good snare. It's a nice snare. And what you can do is change the dynamics of the snare to make an EQ change in a sense. So if I make it so that it's more, I'll turn down the sustain here. And now that's a super tight little kind of clicky snare, because I've turned down the sustain and the decay a little bit. And then when you start bringing the sustain back in, it almost sounds a little bit brighter. Because the transient on the snare is tighter, it has the psychoacoustic effect of adding brightness to the sound. That is using dynamics in the place of EQ. Brilliant! On to the next two.
Number 88.
So, delay can be a great alternative to reverb. It can add a little bit of space and air to your mix. Ooh, delay is reverb. Mind blown. On to the next tip. Tappy tap tap. There's a weird plugin. It's not even a plugin. Piece of software. There's a weird piece of software made by a guy called Paul. It's called Paul Stretch. It looks like it should be on the Atari ST or something like that. But you can load in a sample into there and it will stretch it by like 1,000,000%. It's great for making pads and that kind of stuff. And I saw it on this weirdo's YouTube channel and I thought, oh, I might try that. And it actually worked on the Mac, which I was very surprised at. So go grab that. It is some next level stretch. On to the next 90. There's this thing in Ableton. I have absolutely no idea why it exists. When you export audio and video, you can export to SoundCloud. You can upload to SoundCloud right there from Ableton, as if like you're just going to finish a tune and be like, it's done, and I'm going to release it to the world. No artwork, no like, just nothing. Just, that's it. I'm amazing. And actually, I saw that Skrillex uploaded a tune to SoundCloud the other day, just on SoundCloud, which I was like, is that a thing now? But yeah, you can upload to SoundCloud from Ableton, and it's completely pointless. What a waste of code. I don't know why they would do that. There's so many better things I could think of to spend on that time, but it's Ableton and you could do it and that's great. So yeah, upload to SoundCloud in Ableton. What a waste of time.
Number 91.
When you're sending a demo or a tune to a DJ or a label, I have a bit of advice. Don't send them a 24-bit 96K WAV because they won't even bother to download it because their computer's too full of all kinds of crap. Just send them a nice 320 MP3. It's about 15 megs and they will thank you for it. Because if they really want a WAV, then they'll hit you back if it's the game-changing tune that you think it is. But yeah, just don't be sending us no WAVs. It's too much. Yes, there is like a bit of a slight improvement in quality, but that does not make our computers happy with your 100 megabyte files. So yeah, send me an MP3.
92.
So Splice is a thing and I don't have any idea what it is. And I don't think any real producer would be using this. So yeah, Splice, that's the thing. And I'm sure if you want to get the same sounds that everyone else uses, I guess for plugins it might be quite good. I don't know about that. But yeah, Splice. It's not for me, but you know, you can get that if you think you need Splice. Serum's on there. That's pretty sick. Maybe get that. On to the next tip.
Tip number 93, bruv.
So it's a fact of life that just not everyone's going to like you. And you just got to be good with that. Because you're going to go through this life and just some people they're just not going to like you. And they're going to hate on you, on your comments, on your tunes. And, you know, just some people just won't be into you or what you do. And that's okay. They're just assholes. And actually, in the music game, there's a lot of them. And they ain't going to like you. So, yeah, just be good with the fact that some people will not like you. That is Ableton tip number, I don't know what. On to the next one.
Number 94.
Save your work in 3 places. Either once on the cloud and on 2 hard drives. Just make sure that you go ahead and you save your work in 2 or 3 places. 2, 3 hard drives, whatever. Just make sure that you do that because you will lose work if you don't because hard drives die and things like that. So yeah, just remember, save your work in 3 places. On to the next one. 95. Did you know you can go onto Fiverr? Fiverr's a site where people sell their time and you can get yourself a session musician to play a part for you on your tune. And that is awesome because you're bringing something else to the table and it's probably like £7. So it's just cheap as dirt. And people were just, you know, £15, £86 to get these guys, £23 for the singer there, £3.94 for some violin. It's a bargain.
surely. So yeah, Fiverr is really good for getting people to play on your tunes. Well worth doing. So yeah, get yourself a session musician on Fiverr. On to the next tip. A good year for drum and bass, 96. You've had this idea, it's the biggest idea in the world, it's going to be massive, and you go ahead and you tell somebody, and then it's not special anymore. So my little piece of advice to you would be, don't run your mouth about what you're up to, because it never pays off, and it just, stops being special. Like, I had an amazing idea recently, told 2 people about it, now I'm just sick of it. I don't even want to even bother with it. So just don't run your mouth. I actually gleaned this tip from another tip of 101 tips from Blender Guy, from a Blender dude, and I should probably credit him, but I'm not going to, because that is YouTube. So just don't go run your mouth. He ran his mouth and I stole this idea. So on to the next one. 97. So this one's quite a long tip. It's a one of them tips that it's not really a long one. Just don't go to school to learn how to do music. It's not worth it. You're gonna get 25 grand in the hole. It's a debt that you can't even get out of, even if you go like bankrupt. So it's completely just ridiculous. And everything you need to know is on the internet from dickheads like me. Just don't bother going to school to learn how to do music. There's some really good one-to-one tutorials. My mate Heist does good one-to-one tutorials. I occasionally do one-to-ones with people too. Yeah, just learn from one of us or learn from YouTube videos. There's no need to learn how to do music in school. And anyone who tells you there is probably trying to get 25 grand out of you one way or another. So just don't bother doing that, because that is a bad idea. Just get on with it, because music's music. I don't know anybody who ever went to a record label and a record label were like, where's your qualifications? They just want to be like, where's your tunes, bruv? You got good tunes? Okay, you're in. Sick. All right, safe. Number 98.
If you're anything like me, you probably don't go out that much. I try to get out a lot more than I used to. Sunshine is a thing, and vitamin D is definitely a thing. I could highly recommend vitamin D tablets to anybody who's in the production game and doesn't get out much. This year I actually got a tan. So yeah, I would start taking vitamin D supplements. I don't know about doses. I'm not a doctor or anything like that. So seek proper medical advice, of course, when taking supplements. But vitamin D is definitely worth looking into for the happy juice in your happy brains. On to the next tip, 99. So this is a crucial tip, I think, for anybody, is create a sound library. I've been doing this for a long time, years and years and years of just collecting up sounds from different places, and they're all in here. Got some kicks from E9 that somebody sent me, and I got some classic drum machines, and just years and years and years of collecting sounds in my own special sound library, which is backed up in more than one place, because if you don't back up your stuff in more than one place, then you are going to lose it. So yeah, I would say if you're starting out on the journey of becoming a producer, definitely just collect sounds, as many sounds, beg, steal, borrow, grab, whatever you can do, get all the sounds you can, and then categorize them into a system where you can find them quite simply and easily when you need that specific sound for that specific situation. When Jay-Z comes around to your house, he's like, I need you to build me a tune, cuzzy. And you're like, I got just a sound for you, Jay-Z. So yeah, there you go. Make yourself a sound library. Highly recommended. On to the next tip. 100. So time is the most valuable resource that you will ever have in your life. Time is crucial. Do not waste time. Time is not to be wasted. Every minute of your day and every minute of your time is valuable. And I would say value your time way higher than it actually is worth, so that you don't waste time doing things that you shouldn't be doing. Personally, I value my time at £9,000 an hour. I don't always work for £9,000 an hour, but that is what I value my time at. And I highly recommend that you set yourself a figure of a similar value, so that you don't waste your time on things that aren't going to bring you either joy to your life or that kind of financial reward. So yeah, value your time. Be careful with it. There isn't much of it. You only got a certain amount of hours in a day, then it will be gone and you will never be able to get it back. So value your time. And on to, I think, the last tip. 101! So this is the last tip. And as you can see, it's taken me so long to do these tips. I've grown a beard and I've moved my whole studio around and tidied up. It's been about a month of doing these tips. The last tip from me is just have a good time. Have a good time with it. Enjoy your life. Enjoy making music. And just, it's a great
thing to be able to do this music thing. So Ableton's incredible. And you've got to the end of this video, and I appreciate every single one of you for watching it. So if you get the chance, just tap that like button, hit subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications, because I'm going to be doing a lot more content along these lines. The sun is right in my face. Just thank you so much for watching this. It took a long time. Head over to tcdnb.com to check out what I'm up to, or head over to presetfood.com to grab up those samples. Thank you so much. And I'll see you on the next one, on the next video. Ableton 11's coming out, so I'm going to do another video on that. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace!